hear you.
Greetings and welcome everyone to the RightScale webinar, Best Practices in the Cloud on Autoscaling. This is Michael Crandell. I'm the CEO of RightScale. I'd like to welcome everybody. Today we have on our panel Josh Fraser, our VP of Business Development, who's going to be saying a few words about RightScale from a business point of view and autoscaling, how it fits into the picture. And then we have a couple members of our core team shared with you today. Martin Rhodes, who's going to be helping us walk through a live demo of how to set up autoscaling, and Eugene Gimmelberg, who's helping us on the Q&A session, those of you who are submitting chat questions during the course of the webinar. Before we begin, just a little bit about what you'll be hearing. First of all, a few words from Josh regarding RightScale and autoscaling, and just for those of you who participated in the poll coming in, or the two polls, the number one feature that's driving folks to the cloud, according to those of you who answered, is autoscaling. And at RightScale, we decided to create a series of webinars and share what we see as best practices in cloud computing, and this is the first of those. Then we'll follow up that explanation from a business point of view with a live demo. One or two housekeeping details as we're getting started here. First of all, as the slide says, please feel free to ask questions at any time. We do have a few other members of the core team, including Matthew Small, who's on the sales side, joining Eugene to help answer your questions as we go along. And we'll also be catching several of those for a Q&A session at the end, give you some more time to ask questions. Those of you who are dialing in, connecting internationally, there are local international telephone connection numbers in the email that we sent out inviting you to the webinar. So without further ado, let's get started. And Josh, tell us about autoscaling.
Great, thanks Michael, and welcome everyone. So let's start out just real quickly here about why cloud computing is so exciting. The main reasons as we see it is that cloud computing introduces a whole host of variables that weren't available in traditional managed hosting environments or internal data centers. And really the three key tenets are all about virtually infinite resources that are available on demand in a pay-as-you-go model, usually by the hour. So consumption-based pricing that's really driving a whole host of different opportunities that weren't available before. In many ways, we've seen this already surpass the capabilities of traditional hosting. You have choice as to what size machine you can run on, control over IP addressing, access to different failure zones and geographies, and the ability to mount disk volumes for remote storage or SAN capability in the cloud, are just a few examples of what the cloud affords. What's become clear to RightScale is that utilizing these low-level resources are often very challenging and extremely complex when most businesses just simply want to solve their problems and get up and running quickly. It's that gap that's been created that RightScale focuses on. And our world is really to fill that gap and provide essentially what is an on-ramp to the cloud. And we focus on three key areas. First is an automated management system, the portal of which is a web dashboard provided as a software as a service. Second, we have a rich component library that is really a comprehensive set of server templates and what we call write scripts, which enable dynamic configuration of your instances during boot time, and further reconfiguration of running instances with operational scripts, which really eliminates the need and overhead of image maintenance. Finally, we back all that up with professional services, including design expertise and support. Martin Rhodes, who joins us today, is part of our integration engineering process, and Martin really focuses on that overall design expertise as customers get up and running in the cloud. Most recently, we've seen support for cloud portability emerge as a key component of disaster recovery and business continuity requirements. With that, we announced about a month ago support for multiple clouds, including GoGrid, FlexiScale, Rackspace, in addition to, of course, Amazon. And really, RightScale is going to continue to focus on being that highly automated, full management platform that ties all these services together. From a business point of view, For many years, people have been excited about Agile Development, really a style of software development that gets results faster and allows the development process to respond more quickly to the changing demands of your business. What we think we've arrived at here with the cloud is this concept of Agile Deployment, or the ability to deploy your applications across different sets of infrastructure with the same type of agility in responding to the changing business needs. RightScale is offering a complete and easy-to-use management solution, which really, at the end of the day, enables you to deploy faster, better, and cheaper. Core to our automated management system is a rules-based system from which users can create alerts, escalations, and remedial actions based on a system-level metrics RightScale is monitoring. Today's best practices webinar is going to focus on one key area of that management system, which is autoscaling. Our view of autoscaling is really much more than just launching an instance, but rather the considerably more challenging task of providing an overall system design and architecture where the auto-launched instances configure themselves into cohesive, resilient clusters, all within a development environment that supports workflow and lifecycle features such as versioning. We support several variations of autoscaling today, including a load-based voting mechanism tailored towards highly elastic web applications, such as a Facebook app, schedule-based scaling for predictable event-driven traffic patterns, a blog or a content site. Both of those auto-scaling are available in what we call our website edition. And then finally, a job-based scaling mechanism in our RightSite Grid edition, which measures both the time and the length of jobs in a queue. Today we'll demonstrate a load-based auto-scaling scenario that's used in a typical 4-server deployment, which consists of 2 load balance front ends and a redundant master-slave database back end with backups to S3. The example we'll be using today is on Amazon's Web Services. When additional resources are needed, new servers are launched and added to the server array. When those resources are no longer needed, the application servers can be terminated, removed from the server array, while the basic 4-instance setup stays intact. So now I'm going to turn it over to Martin Rhodes, our Senior Integration Engineer, and Martin's going to take us through the key steps to setting up and configuring that server array, combining with that array a series of alerts and escalations and our voting mechanism. Martin?
Thank you, Josh. So I'm going to show you a little demo of how quick and easy you can set up a scalable website on EC2. So I'm going to log into the dashboard here and create a new deployment to house our servers. And a huge part of the benefit that we provide is reusable components. So we have a master-slave setup that I'm going to add right here. So I'll just plop a slave into the deployment and plop a slave in here as well. And I'll add a couple web front ends. So I'll use PHP in this example, and I'll want a load balance setup, so I'll put 2 of these guys in here so we have full redundancy. Okay, so these templates basically have everything scripted out to either be a MySQL server or a PHP server. And there's only just a few configuration parameters necessary. So, literally to get this master up and running, you have to input 5 parameters here. Just a bucket in S3, a DNS name, and an SSH key. So it's really quick and easy to set up. All you need to do basically is launch these servers once they're configured, and you'll have a fully redundant and replicated MySQL setup in the cloud. The PHP servers as well, it's a similar setup. Just a couple more configuration input parameters here, and one of them is a SVN app repository. This template will go directly to S3 to check out your application code and run it from there.
Yes. Everybody's complaining. Keep going.
The other component that we have that's makes it very easy to use as a scalable array. So what I'll do here is create a new array, and this will be the elastic part of the deployment that will grow and shrink based on load. So this will be an alert-based array, and we'll pick our PHP app server template, SSH key and security group, and connect it to the deployment that we already created. We can specify minimums and maximums as far as the number of servers that we want running, and there's also a voting mechanism. So in general, we recommend setting this to 50%, so your servers have to agree before you start launching more servers or killing off servers. This saves you from, launching 100 machines if one of your application servers is stuck in an infinite loop.
So Martin, while you're continuing with this, just wanted to acknowledge we heard from some of you the audio is a little bit choppy, so we're going to try and slow down the screen refreshes while we're talking, and that should help with the problem.
Okay. So once we have the array set up, all we need to do is define a few metrics or triggers that we want to use to decide whether we want to grow the array or shrink the array. So the best thing to show you right now, we have a setup that's already running, and I will connect to one of the front ends and show you the monitoring. This is available on all our templates by default, and it gives you a wealth of information about how the system is running, CPU usage, disk I/O, network I/O, memory usage, basically every system detail you could want to know about your instance, as well as having a custom plugin, in this case for Apache. We also have one on the MySQL database. And you can use this to look at the number of open connections and things of that nature in Apache, and make custom decisions based on that. So what I'm going to do here is create an alert. And this file parameter is all the metrics that you just saw on the monitoring. So I'm going to pick CPU idle here, and my condition is going to be if it's less than 20% for 3 minutes, I want to launch another server. So I'll pick an escalation, and I'll show you what an escalation is in just a moment. Okay. The escalation is an action that you want to take. So in this case, I'm going to create an escalation that's going to grow my array. And I'm going to connect it to the deployment that we created earlier. And I'm going to add an action. So the choices here are send emails. It's useful for a notification if something's happening. Rebooting or relaunching servers, or running scripts. In this case, I'm going to pick the vote grow array. There's also a corollary grow shrink array. And we'll add that. So minus just a couple configuration settings, this was everything that you need to deploy a scalable site on EC2. So in the interest of time, I already pre-launched a deployment that I'll show you here in a second that's fully running. This is a similar setup, almost exactly the same, except it's running a Rails app. In this case, it's running a photo demo site. And this is what the users would see. You just simply enter a couple numbers here, and it queries the database for a list of pictures. What we have here is a master-slave database setup and two load-balanced Rails front-end servers and a test server. Now this test server is using an open source package called httperf, and this is generating fake traffic that it's sending at the front end, basically simulating users at the site. So what we're going to do here is take a look at the monitoring on the front end. And we can look here at the CPU usage. So the second graph that you see, that is the network interface. So that represents how much work is to be done that's coming from the test server, test bench server. And the CPU usage is in blue on the top graph. So I'm going to give you another view of that down here that's a little bit easier to see. So the Apache request is the work that needs to be done, and the graph below that, the CPU user, is the load on the machine. So you can see here, right about at 9 o'clock, there's a sharp increase in traffic, and because of that, the CPU usage on the front end is increasing. We have an alert that's set up to trigger here right at this point that goes and launches 2 more servers. So you can see as the load increases up to a certain point, we trigger an alert that grows the size of the array, launches 2 more servers, and then soon after that, the load is down here much less. A few hours later, after this, the traffic that's being generated is decreased, you can see that we right here kill off those 2 servers that we launched and scale back down. So this enforces that the CPU usage stays within a reasonable rate and you don't burn through your machine. So this is very nice. Instead of 3 o'clock in the morning, you get an email waking you up to get you out of bed and take care of your server array. We're just simply we're simply able to launch a couple extra servers here and handle this all automatically. So really what you're getting is a setup that can grow and shrink, allowing you to only pay for what you use, but at the same time, you don't have to pay a huge startup cost. So, it really helps you have reliable service, but still keeps your costs down at the same time.
Great. Well, thanks, Martin, and we'll certainly come back to you in a few minutes here with some of the questions. But just to give everyone some context here around what's possible in autoscaling with RightScale. Most of you may have heard or are probably familiar with somewhat of a cloud celebrity here called Animoto. Animoto is a video application that launched a Facebook app back in April, and that app went viral. And that app peaked out at over 200,000 new users per hour. Animoto is run entirely on EC2 and managed by RightScale. They use both our website and our grid edition. And Animoto had a fairly dramatic scaling event in April where they went to nearly 4,000 servers, in a period of about 3 days from around 80. So, nearly a 7x scaling event in April. They actually had a larger event where they went to 6,500 cores back in July, again using our management system to do so. Only at that time they had optimized their platform a bit and upgraded to the extra large instances on Amazon, so it wasn't quite as dramatic in terms of server size. But obviously a very extreme case, but this will just give you an example of what's actually possible in the cloud, combining RightScale's management system with EC2. So we're going to pause here for a few minutes and open it up to some questions here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Josh. Thank you very much, Martin. This is Michael again. Just before we go to the questions, I just wanted to emphasize really how revolutionary this all is, that you can develop your own system based on these templates that is taking low-level metrics about what's going on the machine, both hardware and software application performance, have those feed up through an escalation system into a higher policy and rule-based management component inside RightScale, which then automatically manages your deployment for you. The savings, both in terms of machine time or hardware, if you will, and also in terms of system administration, are major, and it's probably why most of you on the way into this webinar mentioned autoscaling as the key driver for your interest in the cloud. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the Q&A section, and I'm going to introduce now Matthew Small and Eugene Gimmelberg, who've been on the keyboards thus far answering some of your questions, and let them pick out a few key ones to bring out to the entire audience, and then Martin will have you address those. So, Matt?
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Michael. We've got a few good questions here. I'm going to pose this one to Martin. What should I do if I need a shared file system with an auto-scaled array?
Right, so thanks, Matt. So if you have a shared file system, so you have to, address that smartly in your application, because, by nature, most shared file systems are not scalable. So, many users initially want to set up something like NFS, but, if you really want to be able to scale your application, we recommend kind of steering away from using a shared file system and trying to devise some other method that is more scalable. So most of our users are able to implement something either in combination with S3 and SDB, using memcache servers, or potentially, moving a lot of that information into a database that's not running on the application servers.
Great. Now, another great question is, if one of your servers gets stuck in an infinite loop, what are the safeguards in place to ensure that you're not paying for AWS resources that aren't generating income? The answer to that is that the voting system prevents single servers, single nodes in a cluster from provisioning or deprovisioning additional resources if only that server is experiencing a particular load condition. Because of that voting system, you're not ever going to run into a scenario where one server that's stuck in an infinite loop is scaling your application up to your maximum parameters. Of course, you can also set minimum and maximums for the size of your scalable array. Another great question is, will we support Postgres? The answer is we have an upcoming partnership with Enterprise DB that's been announced, and they are bringing that technology to RightScale. Another question is, what is our monitoring solution based on? We use an open source monitoring daemon called collectd, which streams the information back from your servers to RightScale servers, and it's rendered within your dashboard by RightScale's application servers.
I'm muted, they can't hear me.
Question on privacy. How can I ensure that RightScale staff cannot browse my database server as an OS admin? If you would like us to browse your database server, you can certainly invite us to, but you have to actually specify an invitation. No one from RightScale can go into your servers without your express permission defined as an invitation. How do we divert traffic to new virtual machines loaded with other app servers? You can use HA proxy to route to with whatever rules that you want to implement. HA proxy is the software load balancing utility used by our front-end templates. Of course, if you'd like to use another software load balancing utility, you're welcome to completely customize any of these templates. Everything that we deliver as part of our base templates is in source form. So not only can you modify and hack up what we've written, but you can also replace things with your own components if you have a specific component that you want to use. The load balancer front end, does it support SSL? The answer is yes, if you add in your SSL certificate to our Apache vhost script. We've got a question regarding content management systems. This one is specifically Joomla, but it would also apply to things like Drupal or other CMSs. How do those work? For most of those CMS systems, the actual CMS framework is stored in the database, so there's not a huge problem since your database is redundant and persistent within the RightScale templates. You would simply create a script to install Joomla or Drupal or any other CMS system that you want to use on top of our pre-existing pre-built PHP server templates. I'm just going to keep going on these here. We've had a request to show some more of the pre-baked escalations. Martin, if you want to show some of those and maybe how we create a new one.
So the pre-baked escalations, well, at least the one we include by default on the templates, are mostly alerts. So I'll show you those here. So there's different ones that will notify you if your CPU is busy or overloaded, if the weight's a significant part of your CPU usage, if you're waiting for disk I/O, for example, if you're maxing out, saturating your network bandwidth. Now, what we really provide is the full capability for you to customize this to take any action that you want. So we just provide these few sample ones right here that send you notifications. But the real power will come after you've benchmarked your application and you know where the bottlenecks are. Then you'll be able to craft your own set of alerts and escalations to suit your particular application. And that's really, the most powerful part is the customization that we not only allow you to do, but make it extremely easy for you to do. So you can craft these in any way, shape, or form. So I'll just go back to the specs that were here. So basically you can use any of the metrics that's in the monitoring stats to take a trigger, to make a trigger. And then also in the near future, we're going to provide the capability to write your own custom collect-D plugins and have those signal stuff within the dashboard. So you could even have your own processes running on your servers and have that signal an action that needs to be taken.
Maybe we should walk quickly through the scale-up escalation that's there.
So the scale-up escalation that you saw me create earlier, this grow array one here. So this one's very simple. You just specify an action that you want to take. In this case, I connected it to a deployment already, connected it to an array. In this case, this will vote to scale up that array. So every server, every application server that's in your pool, you will configure with configure with an alert that will trigger this escalation. And we can also configure this to send an email to after you grow your array, for example.
So as you're typing this, that really takes it forks two different actions. One is a notification email or SMS, and the other is the voting process inside the RightScale system.
Great. A lot of questions here on scaling slave databases and database servers. Wanted to point out that our MySQL templates include templates for the master and the slave. You're welcome to use any type of additional middleware that you'd like to attempt to configure that database load balancing. We don't provide anything out of the box for that. You can certainly put a slave database in as a scalable array. What we provide is everything you need for full replication from a master to the slave, plus all these scripts available to do failover and recovery of that data. Whatever you do with those templates is completely up to you. You may want to look at companies like Continuant or DB Shards or other companies, MySQL Proxy, Sequoia, these various middlewares that provide additional services like active master-master or load balancing reads to a slave array. A good example of that would actually be foreclosureradar.com. One of our customers who does have a bottleneck in the database, and what they do is they do routinely scale out additional slaves in order to handle read requests. They have architected that directly into their application. You could certainly give each one of your slaves a DNS name if you so desired and address them like that from your app servers.
So I just wanted to add one thing. Also, by default, we include a collectd plugin for MySQL that gives you a wealth of information about how MySQL in particular is running. Right here, we're just looking at the operations. We can see the inserts and updates. But this information is broken down into long queries, reads and writes, how many different threads are running. And you can use all this information to trigger your alerts to scale up a database array of your slaves. You could look at just the reads that are happening, for example. And if the reads are a significant amount, then you can launch additional servers. We had one question come in by email that I'd like to hit. The question is, application servers require things like a host name or a DNS made easy ID, and how that can be inserted on the fly before the instances are launched. So basically how that's handled, launching new application servers and the DNS issue around that, is to use load balancers. So most setups will have two load balancers up front, and they will proxy the traffic to additional application servers as they're launched and remove servers from the pool as they're shut down. And with two load balancers, you can handle a very significant amount of traffic. So there's generally no bottleneck that's imposed from that.
We've got some requests to cover the queue-based scaling a little bit as well. So what we've talked about today is scaling based on alerts, and that is primarily for a web portal. Our grid edition, aka RightGrid, that does allow for scaling based on SQS. And what that, instead of defining particular functions of your elasticity for the monitoring, what metric you're alerting against, and what percentage of those servers are voting, instead you're going to define parameters that say, for instance, for every 5 jobs in this queue, let's launch an additional server. Or if a job's been sitting there for longer than 10 minutes, let's launch an additional server. So you can scale based on the length of that queue or the amount of time that jobs have been sitting in that queue, and RightGrid will actually consume that data. There you see in the diagram, your worker instances will consume that data, grab the raw data from S3, figure out what it has to do as what the message is defined in the input queue, do its task, and then spit it back out, a pointer into the SQS output queue, and push that converted data back into S3 storage. I'm going to let Martin continue here.
So one thing also that I'd like to add is one very elegant thing about SQS and RightGrid is that we allow you just to specify a process that you want called on the worker machine, and we basically take care of all the other work that needs to be done as far as analyzing how much work there is to be processed, how many machines you need to do that, and we're able to automatically download and upload files, so the process that you write only needs to look at the local file system to get files and to push files. So it really makes it extremely easy for developers to implement a system within this framework.
Right, and just add a note to that, on our wiki, which is at wiki.rightscale.com, there's some detailed documentation on how RightGrid works and the queuing system and the various load triggers in that context. So That's, I think, a simple sign up to get in and get on that for free. So welcome you to check that out. We have additional questions, Matt?
Yes, we do. Lots of additional questions. Let's see here. We have got a question based on if we currently offer Oracle database scaling. We do not currently offer Oracle scaling. Is the array feature available in the free version? It is not. The free version is really designed for you to get your feet wet. It's very full-featured. What you'll be able to do is launch, terminate servers, design your own server templates, choose from a variety of server templates that we've created for single-tenant servers, such as a full LAMP stack or full Rails stack with MySQL, as well as backups to S3. The automation features that you've seen here today, the array features, and the ability to cluster servers into a deployment and share global inputs across them are available in our for-pay editions of RightScale. Let's see here. Another great question raised is the Amazon announcement regarding monitoring and management tools that are coming in 2009. We do not expect that to impact RightScale, as the questioner asked. We actually are very enthusiastic about all of this. This is going to give you more options. So what they're coming out with is going to be a very low-level system that will actually be able to support as soon as they release it. So you can choose to use their autoscaling, or you can use our autoscaling. One thing to note, though, is that whatever Amazon releases is going to be specific to their services, to EC2, to S3, and their other services. This voting system, as well as the alerts and the monitoring that we've shown you today, is cloud agnostic, meaning you can take the same parameters for scalability and move from the AWS cloud to another cloud like GoGrid or FlexiScale or the Rackspace cloud, which we've announced support for. Those clouds are all coming soon, and that is the ultimate goal of where we want RightScale to go.
All right, this is Michael again. Just to add to that question, Matt, really we're pretty happy to see Amazon come out with additional low-level infrastructure features like load balancing, monitoring, etc. And as we've done in the past, we work cooperatively with them to release support within RightScale as quickly as possible in coordination with the launch of those services from them. Really, it's important to understand, as you've seen today, that autoscaling, really just one small piece of the puzzle, is the notion of a trigger that launches a new instance or causes a new instance or virtual server to be launched. Really, the more complex part of that process is what the server does once it begins to launch and how it configures itself into a cluster of other servers and takes on its role, as well as issues like remediation, self-healing, etc. So RightScale has always been designed to fit on top of the lower level infrastructure services, and really these are being added to by Amazon by the addition of load balancing, monitoring, kinds of web services, and they'll be adding others, we understand, over time also.
This is Martin. We had one question come across the wire about SQS reliability. SQS is an extremely reliable service. Once you put a message into the queue, you're guaranteed of its persistence. And one nice feature that Amazon has built in to SQS is fault tolerance. So if a worker machine checks out a message from SQS, you specify an amount of time that he has to report back and claim that he's done. And if a machine fails while he is in the middle of doing work, he won't be able to report back, and those messages will be regenerated. So you're guaranteed with RightGrid that every single work message will get computed. Matthew?
Okay, great. We've got another great question here on what is the revision number in the server templates, and can we modify your templates and keep a change history? Martin, maybe you actually want to show some of that in the platform there. The answer is yes, you can, and Martin will show you how.
Okay, so I'll show you the premium templates that we offer. I'll take a look at the MySQL master. This is one of the most popular components. So any script, any template that we have, you can view all the scripts that are used to configure and edit those for yourself. So I will open up the DB server install script. So this is actually the script that installs MySQL. And you can clone this script right here and edit it as necessary if you need to make any changes. So what we provide is good for most setups in general, but nothing is done in the dark. You can fully customize 100% of everything we do. So you can rebuild, modify to your heart's content with this system, and it's extremely easy.
And how do the revisions show up once there are different versions of scripts?
So the revisioning works like so. So anytime that you make a change that you want to keep, you can commit it here. And that will freeze this version. And you can see here in a second, now I can pick the revision 1 was what I just published. And that's frozen in time. So if my production templates are using this revision 1, I can still develop on the head as necessary until I want to make a change. And once I want to publish it, I can simply commit it again. Another nice feature that we allow is for you to take a diff. So if you clone one of our templates and modify it, you're able to compare the differences between the two. So I didn't make any changes here, so this won't show anything. But it would work like so. So it would compare any differences you would see here, either in red or in green, of two scripts. So that's very nice if you take one of our scripts and make it custom, and then we release another revision. It's very easy to do a three-way diff and then merge the changes that we have made if you choose to accept them.
Great, pretty powerful feature and that's in the area that we call life cycle of development and the workflow of development.
Another good question that we've got, I'll pose this to Martin again. The HA proxy load balancer, what kind of performance can you expect from that in terms of requests per second, and how much can each of those handle?
So in general, with the HA proxy load balancers, the limit you're going to hit is going to be with bandwidth. So if you're running, a PHP or a Rails site or Tomcat, 2 load balancers will be able to support 250 megabits a second each, or 500 megabits a second total. And that's enough to overwhelm almost any pool of application servers. I mean, that can support generally 10 or 20 servers. So ultimately, how many requests per second you can handle is going to depend on your application. We've done some benchmarks with just serving a very small static file, and we've gotten those up to, above 10,000 requests a second, this is just serving 1 byte, basically 1 byte request packets, so very small packets. So the numbers ultimately, though, will depend on your application.
Okay. Question about running a load balancer instance versus a front end. The difference between a load balancing instance, and a front-end server that Martin showed you in creation today, those load balancing servers would be Apache and HA proxy on a separate instance. Now, if you're pushing a lot of requests per second, then that might be the way to go. However, if you're a startup getting started with RightScale in the cloud, we would recommend the 4-server setup and putting your load balancer on the same instance as an application server. That is what we call a front end.
So one also thing that I'd like to add is the front end templates are designed to have a switch on them where you can turn the application either on or off. So for most customers, we recommend exactly what Matt said, starting out with a 4-server setup, 2 load balance front ends, and a master-slave database. But everything is necessary to scale up from there, automatically without doing hardly any work at all. You just can basically start adding additional application servers, and then once you have a significant amount, you can push a button and the application will be killed from running on the load balancers, and you'll only be using application servers.
Great, thanks, Martin. Another question on the HA proxy load balancer. Does it take a bounce of HA proxy to know that a new instance is part of a scalable array? And if so, does this affect the way that the requests are handled?
Okay, so that's a good question. So if you restart HA proxy only does a graceful restart. So it won't terminate any connections that are established, and users will see no loss of service. But yes, you do have to do a graceful restart of HA proxy when you add new application servers, but there's zero impact on your client's performance.
Great. A few questions about EBS and the extent of our support for EBS. You have full support of EBS within the dashboard. That is also available in the free developer edition. It is not available in the free trial edition. The free trial edition does not have any storage capabilities for S3 or EBS. You will need to input your Amazon credentials and upgrade to the free developer edition to unlock both of those services. And Martin, you wanted to say something about that as well?
Yes, so many customers are interested in running MySQL on EBS, and we have templates fully built and ready to go, but we basically just want to make sure that EBS is going to perform as we expect it to. We did extensive testing on EBS when it was in the alpha cluster, but we waited a little bit to make sure that the performance characteristics were going to be the same when it was released into full beta, because if any system the usage increases, obviously the performance characteristics are going to change. So when we release premium templates, we recommend running your production systems on them, and we're just now comfortable being able to release those MySQL templates for EBS now.
Another question on that involves, are there any InchX users in RightScale, and can customers share and exchange scripts? That's a great question, and we do have an InchX template that is currently in beta with a few of our customers. We'll be pushing that out very soon. You can also use our forums, forums.rightscale.com. We have a growing user community there. That is out there sharing scripts and ideas and asking questions and getting answers from our technical services team, including Martin here. We do encourage you to do that. We are looking at enabling functionality to allow easier script sharing, so you can really start communicating with other RightScale users. Two-part question. One question is, we've noticed that your templates are based off of CentOS primarily. Do we also support other Linux distributions such as Debian or Ubuntu? And second part of that question is, can we create our own base write images to work with a server template in RightScale?
So the answer to both of those questions is yes. We provide our build scripts for our CentOS images open, so you can download those and see how they work and modify it as necessary to fit your needs. It will work for, RightScale will work for any Linux distribution. It's just a simple matter of inserting the init script that's in our build script into your image so that when it boots, it can contact RightScale and be configured by RightScale automatically.
Question on some of the pricing here, so I'll cover that. Signing up for the, what does the $2,500 integration and access fee cover? And what is the Premier support in the Premium Edition? I'd like to touch on that. The $2,500 covers integration, consulting, and support and coaching from our technical services and consulting teams. You will get your hand held through the process. We're going to teach you, though, how to actually set this up yourself so you can end up being self-sufficient on the platform. We want you to help get you to take matters into your own hands here and manage your infrastructure on the cloud. The Premier support also includes 2 additional hours of consulting time per month on an ongoing basis, in addition to the integration and access. All of this is really designed to show you how to get the most value out of these services and really get you moving, both on AWS and other clouds that we support and will be supporting in the future.
While you're looking there, Matt, we're starting to come down to the tail end of our hour for the webinar. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. And then wanted to invite those of you who didn't get your questions answered. One of our practices is to follow up on any questions that didn't get answered during the live session, where we will be in contact with you via email because that's a key part of what we do here. But we do have time for 1 or 2 more, Matt.
Great. I've got a really good one here. If an application knows a date and time that it needs to be grown or shrunk, is there a simple way to connect RightScale to scale that? Martin, maybe you want to throw up the schedule-based scaling there on the screen. The answer is yes. You can actually set up a particular time frame within your array to automatically pre-provision additional resources or scale back down additional provision resources. And what you're actually doing here is, instead of just setting a static number of servers you want to at a particular time, you're actually just redefining the minimum and the maximum size of your array. So let's say by default you have a minimum size of 2 additional application servers and a maximum size of 6 additional application servers. You'll always be running at least 2, but let's say Monday morning at 8 o'clock you know your application gets hit hard and you want to be able to scale that out. You can simply say, let's say 7:45, let's increase my minimum count to 4 servers and my maximum count to 10 servers. So it's not mutually exclusive to the load triggers and alert-based scaling either. We'll do one more question and wrap it up. What are some of the templates that we provide? Do we support Python and JBoss? Were some of the specifics that were brought up. We do not have a pre-built JBoss template. We do have a template for Tomcat 5 and Tomcat 6 that can be modified to work with JBoss, as some of our customers have done. The Python is simply an installation script that you can create on top of our existing application servers. We currently have support for Tomcat 5, 6, Rails, PHP, MySQL. We have templates for NFS, master-slave configuration, templates for Hadoop clusters. The JBoss templates themselves are in development from our server templates team, and you'll be seeing some pre-built stacks delivered soon for those as well. That about wraps it up, everybody. I'm going to give this back to Michael here, and he'll close it out.
Well, thanks, Matt and Martin, Josh, everybody, Eugene, all you RightScalers on the core team. Thanks very much. So in conclusion, wanted to let everybody know if you have friends or colleagues who would like to have a listen to this webinar offline, there will be a recorded version that we publish online. We give you access to that if you just send us an email to sales@rightscale.com. We're also available if you have more specific questions about what a paid version of RightScale can do for you. Give us a contact at the toll-free number that's online there, 866-720-0208, or shoot us an email, sales@RightScale. We do have a promotion running right now, which is $500 off the initial coaching and access fee through the middle of November. And in addition to that, wanted to announce the second in our series of best practices webinars will be happening this coming November 11th, about 1 hour later, so at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And the subject for that is dynamic configuration using templates and scripts. So in that webinar, we're going to dive into the details about how the server template system and the abstractions that it affords you is really the key linchpin in how clusters self-configure and boot themselves up to run automatically and in a replicatable way on the RightScale system. One last plug, you may see a survey that you can take when you exit the meeting, and would invite you to do that. If you're interested, please send us your suggestions and comments about this webinar and about topics for other webinars. And with that, thank you very, very much for joining us.
If some of you that have open questions would like to stick around, I'm going to continue to answer those. Eugene and I will continue to answer those, but this concludes the rest of the webinar.